Hola, hola, ¿qué tal? Gracias por acompañarnos y por recibirnos aquí en Daddies on Duty. Babs. I'm not Babs.
I'm not Babs.
I'm not Babs.
Yeah.
The reason, what's the joke behind that?
No. Our 4-year-old, soon to be 5-year-old son. Whenever we tell him, accidentally we'll say Babs, and he says, "I'm not Babs."
I'm not Babs. Daddy Eliezer's Babs. Daddy Eli's Babs. I'm not Babs.
Hi everyone, welcome back. Thank you for having us.
How do you feel with the feedback so far? People are commenting. What have you heard about?
I mean, I've heard some good things. I've heard some more surprising things, like, "Oh wait, what are you guys doing now?" And some of the interesting comments of like, "Why is everybody doing this?" But and then some, some negative, some positive. But you take the good with the bad. Overall, you know what we say. That's our life, not yours.
Yeah, no. The good thing about this is that negative comments, positive comments, has been part of this journey, as well as everything that has to do with emotions. And
Yes.
reading a message from someone, they told us, "You guys, I would like to know how has it been, not only now with the baby, but during that process. ¿Cómo fue todo eso? How are you guys feeling?" And I think that's what we're going to address on today's episode.
Okay.
This is we're going to talk about the emotional component of our journey to become dads in this international surrogacy journey. Y yo te quiero hacer una pregunta. Do you remember April 24th of 2023, Abril 24 del 2023? Do you remember that date?
I don't remember, but I'm gonna guess that's when we got the news that we were pregnant.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm not very good with dates.
Good job. And 11 days prior to that, that was the transfer, Cataleya's transfer.
Yes,
right?
yes.
And we were so excited. Dios mío, yo me acuerdo cuando ella llamó que I was FaceTiming you y la tenía a nuestra gestante en speaker y ella nos dijo,
Oh, we have the video.
We have the video.
Yeah, we have the video. I forgot about that.
We have the video. She's like, it's positive.
Yeah.
How was that moment for you?
So, I'm going to share with you guys a funny story, una pequeña historia chistosa. I know we mentioned it before, one of the previous episodes, that we thought it was a boy, right? We thought Cataleya was a hunter at that time. That was a selected name.
That was going to be the name. Had it been a boy,
yeah,
Hunter.
we were set on Hunter in London at that time. So, I was down for a few days. That's what it was. I was down for a few days, and it was more so because I was, hoping that it was going to be a boy. But anyway, that's we're more than happy now. So a few days into the pregnancy test, that morning, like 2 days before they tell you that that's when the baby actually hatches. Como, I don't know how you say that in Spanish.
It hatches.
Like, baby hatches.
Se implanta, no?
Yeah. And so I remember that morning I woke up and I felt overwhelmed with love. Right? Like I just felt it like hovering over me, as if I felt her presence. It was a very surreal and bizarre feeling. So when we got the call that morning, I remember thinking to myself, duh, I know. I felt her this morning. So, but the emotions were wild. They were rampant. You were jumping up and down because you couldn't wait to do it together.
Yes. and I was happy, but at the same time, I was very like, well, we got to wait 3 months.
Yes,
we got to wait 12 weeks because we were coming from a failed transfer. So I was like, you know what? I'm so excited. It did take, pero uno nunca sabe si esto en verdad va a seguir sucediendo. So hay que esperar. Y por eso no se lo dijimos a nadie hasta después de los 3 meses. Pero en ese sentido, lo que yo sí sentía era que Cataleya ya estaba en la casa. Porque incluso desde la transferencia, we felt like she was home. We had this weird feeling that she was like walking around the house. And
well, we pictured her in the home. I mean, there was never no doubt in my mind. In case Cataleya, when you're watching this a few years later, I never doubted it for a second. I knew I was ready to say it day one. But no, it was a surreal feeling because you felt it. You felt it. It was nice. But I do remember that morning when I woke up. I think I prayed the night before, and I said, God, I'm sorry that I feel this way. And then the next morning when I woke up, it was like, wow. It felt as if I couldn't contain the excitement, the love. So definitely an emotional process.
And we got to that point, but of course we got to talk about prior to that and then after receiving that positive, because indeed surrogacy journey es una ruleta de emociones, ¿no?
Yes.
Una montaña rusa de emociones, como se le dice en inglés, an
Roller coaster. Emotional roller coaster.
Porque we had a failed transfer, but when that embryo was transferred, algo era que hasta yo sentía que yo estaba embarazado, porque la gestante nos decía, ay sí, ya siento, estoy mareada, tengo vómitos, ya siento que hasta los senos me pesan, me dan dolores de cabeza. Y yo le decía, Dios mío, yo hasta siento algunas de las cosas que tú estás sintiendo. So it's like,
well, you lived the pregnancy.
I lived the pregnancy. La primera transferencia hasta yo me sentía, ¿verdad? Que estaba embarazado. Pero ya con Cataleya, literalmente yo viví cada momento. But it's true, you start picturing all these things, and then cuando te dicen, no, it didn't take, that was a very hard hit on me. Porque ahí sí que yo me dio la chiripiorca, me dio el tequeteque. I was like home all day that
I remember I think I was in bed for a while, so I was depressed too because you're so hopeful. There's so much. The thing with surrogacy is that there's so much hope that you pour in, and it's one of those things that they don't tell you is that you're convinced and you generally believe that it will happen the first time.
Yeah.
You know, you hear all these stories that, you know, of success rates. They go over the success rates at the first try is like 67 or 50, whatever the case was.
60%.
And then it goes up to like 70 or 80 something and then so on. But you're convinced at the first try that it will happen. So it's like all the excitement goes into that first transfer. Right,
and then when they tell you no,
no. It was it's the timing of it all. You know, so you know that at some point you'll know the answer. So the transfer happens on X day,
and then you have to wait 10 days.
You have to wait 10 days for the results, and then another few days to confirm the results. And it was a very emotional process, and and now we're here, and like every embarazo, there's the first trimester you're waiting, you're always terrified of of miscarriages, and so on. So you really do live all the emotions.
And they say that men sienten los síntomas del embarazo. Yo sentí algunos síntomas. I used to tell you. What were some of the things? No, siento que hasta voy a vomitar. Me siento.
He was super dramatic. But let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
When did it feel real for you that, okay, this baby is coming? And before you answer that question, I'm going to tell you why. From day one, right, when we got the positive pregnancy test, I was out there already planning on how we're going to organize the home. We were arguing back and forth over the nursery. I'm like, well, we don't have a lot of time. And you're like, we have 8 months. And I said, well, not really. That's not really how it works. Because you can't just leave everything for last minute. And what if something happens last minute? Which in our case, it did. Our basement got flooded.
Yeah, our basement got flooded, which is great. We're doing this podcast right now.
Yeah, and then our driveway had to be all ripped up. So there was a lot of things in between. But when did it become real for you that you knew, like, okay, the baby is coming and your life was about to change?
Well, this is what happened definitely after the first trimester. That's when it was like, okay, we're getting there. Because we know that you have to wait 12 weeks because anything could happen. There's a lot of transfer that are successful que luego de las 4 semanas, de la semana número 6, desafortunadamente, pues se pierde el embarazo. So after the first trimester, pero luego de la semana, after the first trimester, yo me acuerdo que yo te decía, oh my God, I can't wait for week number 24. Yeah, it's 24, 25, que yo decía, porque ya yo sé que si el bebé nace, hay un alto porcentaje de que sí sobreviva. Right? Obviously, it's going to be with complications, most likely, pero the birth rate, I think that's the actual term, right? Or it's higher after the week number 24. So yo decía, ya después de las 24 semanas, ya yo sentía que sí.
Yeah.
Pero ¿qué pasa? Que cuando llegamos al tercer trimestre, third trimester, I said, okay, now we can start buying things. Porque I remember you started buying things from like...
So you know what?
After we got the first
full disclosure, this is what happened.
But I was afraid. I was afraid that, afortunadamente sí, fue exitosa. Cataleya está aquí, pero I was afraid que si algo hubiese pasado, ¿no?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. Well, here's the whole going back on the buying thing. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the store Bye Bye Baby and Bed Bath and Beyond.
which, by the way, they're not sponsoring this podcast,
No,
so
they're-
we should have mentioned that.
They're not sponsoring, but around that time they were going out of business.
Okay, yeah,
so
yeah.
I'm a smart shopper, and so I said, listen, like everything must go. So why not? We know the baby was coming in at some point, and sure enough, we did. We got some pretty good stuff, and so that's why it was the early one. But I'm also very prepared, if anything. But it's funny through this whole process. When we're going through the weeks, we had this app.
Oh, yeah. We have the baby app.
The baby app. It's like this mom app, right? And they have, you go through, week 1, here's what to expect. Week 6, what to expect. Week 12, it's the size of a peanut. It's the size of an eggplant. It's the size of whatever. So it's like every week we would sit here. Remember?
Yeah.
They would say, oh, look, the baby's the size of a pear today. Look, it's developing eyelids.
And then I would ask our surrogate, are you feeling this right now? Because para semana 13, 14, tienes que estar sintiendo esto, lo otro. Ya se está moviendo, siente algo. Y algo muy importante. Si ella decía, ay, hoy no sentí que la bebé se movía, Dios mío, ¿para qué era eso? Ya era inmediatamente porque no se está moviendo la bebé. So you do live in a constant fear. I'm going to say that. I think it's... did you feel like that? Were you...
Well, I felt like that, but, it's funny, going back to that app, when, one of the things that they tell you when you're going through this journey is to, don't Google, just... It's a natural process. Go through it, but it's funny with our surrogate. It's different. You're not carrying the baby. Obviously, we cannot. But you're depending on someone else to relay this information to you, which kind of ties into the whole emotional component. Because with the app, like you just stated, they tell you you should be feeling X, Y, and Z this week. Yeah. So our surrogate, God bless her. She wasn't that she was like bad or anything, but we had to pull information from her, and we weren't sure
because she wanted always to be strong, even if she was feeling something.
So we would say, this week you should have really bad heartburn. So, are you feeling heartburn? And she's like, I'm okay. I feel better. We're like, okay, wait, no, that's stressing us out. You should feel it by now. So.
Y pobre de mí si ella no respondía. Like if she would like, a day would pass and we wouldn't hear from her. That would have been very, very...
And I would tell her, I said, listen, leave her alone. She's probably doing... I mean, she has a son. She's probably... And then, sure enough, that was the case.
Y yo hablaba con ella, bueno, hoy hablé con ella un martes, no le voy a escribir hasta el jueves. But every other day I had to communicate with her. Because otherwise... and then when it got closer, second trimester came, third trimester, ahí era verdad que nos pusimos... At least I did. How did you get as we were getting closer and closer to the birth?
So, so it's funny. I can relay this to 2 experiences, right? As we were getting closer to the birth in this pregnancy, I developed anxiety, right? But I think all parents, that's when it becomes real. Like, at least for me, I'm like, okay, wait a minute. You start thinking about all the things that you haven't done, right? Like the nursery's not set up yet. In our case, we have to book travel. We were dealing with, Ethan's travel as well and school. And, how are we going to manage all these things? We have 2 small dogs. I was terrified. We have a dog who's 14 years old. And I was like, oh my God, what if he dies in between? So you start thinking about all these things, and it becomes like real that you have to make plans because this baby will not wait for you. That's one point. And also, comparing that to my first experience with my oldest daughter, it was the same thing too. There's a day that it clicks in that, okay, this is happening. And then you start worrying about, all these different things, which I'm going to get to that in one sec as part of the emotional journey. When you go through the weeks, it tells you that at this point, the baby can come anytime preterm.
Yeah.
So you start feeling like, okay, you're terrified that might actually happen. So you're on top of the surrogate, but you're also thinking, okay, wait, you might have to pick up and go.
And go at any time.
At any time. But I think for me, the most, emotional, mentally, anxiety, but the one thing that I kept thinking about the most is you start getting these thoughts of like, am I going to be a good parent? Am I going to be around for this child? What can I do to protect this child? All these thoughts just start going through your head. Like, am I equipped to be, a good parent? Like, do I have do I have what it takes? And that's really that, no one really talks about that because you go through that and post, right? Pre meaning when the baby's still inside the womb, but after too, when you have this, being in front of you and you think to yourself, oh my God, you want to be so good and so perfect and you have all these emotions. I think that's what it boils down to. After the third trimester, for me, all those emotions came in.
And are you being a good parent so far?
I think I'm an excellent parent. I think, I think we're both excellent parents, but I think that we, above else, we love unconditionally. And two, we in our way, we position our kids, we position everything around us for success. And I think that's, as long as kids have a very good supportive system, they have all the love and understanding. Patience was a little different. It took us a while to get to the patient part. But I think if you have, those are the key elements to bringing up a kid and having a successful parenting experience.
Yeah, and you're talking about being patient. And this is something that if you are going through a surrogacy journey, you must have. Because at the same time that we were pregnant with Cataleya, we were still going on our second process.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, transfers kept going and coming, and all the
Different
results were negative.
Yeah,
Right now, we're going to the fifth transfer.
This is the fifth transfer for the second one.
With the second second process, because obviously all the other ones have been negative. So we were happy that we were waiting on Cataleya, but at the same time we were devastated because we wanted, at that time, we wanted both.
We wanted them to come in
at the same time, at least
God knows what he's doing and things happen for a reason, right? There is no way we can handle two at the same time.
We were going crazy.
What were we thinking? What were we thinking? Maybe I'm sure we would have figured it out, but I mean, it's a lot. I kept telling him that the surrogate was always complaining that Cataleya is always moving. And I said, that's because ella va a ser tremenda. For sure, she's going to be like very active. And sure enough, she is active. Like she is, she is, when she wants what she wants, when she wants it. And so is Ethan. But no, yeah, it was it's definitely, it's an emotional experience. But the one interesting point, everyone tells you all journeys are different. All journeys are unique. But there's a certain thing that once, they say like once you weather the storm, like, things are different. It's so true. All of those emotions and feelings seem like they were in such like a short time frame. Now that she's here.
But during the process, while we were going through it, they seem like forever. Or why is this happening? Is this something that is supposed to happen? And a big mistake that I made is that I compare our journey with others. I would go to like some Facebook groups and read what were they doing for week 30 or is this supposed to happen, or when our transfer failed, why. I would go and just ask, why is it not going through the second process. So that was adding more to my whole mental aspect, and it was actually messing around with me because I'm like, what is happening? Why isn't the second one taken? Why are we only going to have one when some others had two transfers
back to back,
both of them back to back, and both of them were successful. So that's one thing for sure. If you're going through this process or you're thinking of this process, do not compare yourself.
Don't compare. Don't compare. It's it will happen in your designated time, and it will be as beautiful as anyone else. And I can tell you, just live it, enjoy the bad moments, not enjoy them, but appreciate the good and the bad, because at the end of the day, when that, and it's true what they say, when you first lay eyes on that baby, on that being that just is like looking at you like, hey, I'm here, like I'm hungry, everything else just melts away. It was all just so worth it in the end. So if you are going through the process, trust me, we're still going through it too. Thankfully, we did two, because right now we would have still been waiting on one.
I think that's why we better now, because we at least have one.
We have one, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter once the baby's here.
And now I'm sure people want to know this, and this is part of the emotional aspect of this process. How attached do we get to the surrogate? I think I got more attached than you, or you saw it from a different perspective than I did.
Well, I think it's a combination of both. I think my personality, I'm more of a transactional person, right? And I think that when, and we have these discussions as it relates to when you have, help around the house that works for you. And so I think that when you mix the personal with the work itself, because it is a transaction, I think it leaves a lot of room for gray areas. It leaves a lot of room for miscommunication, misunderstandings. So I think for me, it was more of a transaction. I'm grateful and we were attentive, but also we're a team. So it's like you handle the emotional component, I handle the organizational, financial component, and I think we balance each other out. But you were definitely much more attached. Yeah.
Couple of things. Number one, you see it more of a business transaction. I saw it more from like the human side. More, of course, this is the person that's going to give her baby, give birth to her baby. Number two, we were watching The Surrogate on Netflix. There's a series on Netflix that we were watching.
Which proved my point, by the way.
That The Surrogate, well, there was more to the series, right? But basically, the surrogate got attached to the baby. So it was always, like, I'm always thinking, well, what if the surrogate goes like nuts and wants to take the baby and runs away from the baby, runs away with the baby? So esas cosas también pasaban por mi mente. Obviamente es un proceso legal, there's a lot of legal terms, y no es una cosa que sucede, pero yo me imaginaba, ¿y qué pasa si esta mujer se...
I think you were trying to be more preventive, proactive in case doomsday. But no, I think, for me, I generally believe what's meant for you is meant for you. And I generally believe that if things are going to happen, they will happen. I think we do have influence over how, it's good to be in the know. But I do, I have a very unique way of enjoying the process. And I can say, you lived it for sure. Yeah. I generally enjoyed it. I enjoyed the transformation. I enjoyed seeing the before and after. I enjoyed seeing how we changed and, how we started, prepping. When they say on the app and whatever the month was that, it's your nesting period. We nested months ago.
We nested. And then it got to the point
we nested for months.
when we arrived to Bogota, which is the place where Cataleya was born, when you saw...
we nested some more.
Why not to see...
Wait, can you pass me my little far away? Sorry.
Why not is... Cheers to that.
Why not? Why
not to... seeing Cataleya in the belly.
So, it was important for us to be there, to organize the apartment, and we wanted to be prepped, so should anything come up, we were ready, right? So I flew in first. Eli was waiting on his paternity to kick in. I had more flexibility with work at the time, and so I flew in. I think a week or two earlier. 3 weeks before the due date. But they also told us to fly in. They said you have to be here because anything can happen. So we're like, okay, that's how emotional and paranoid you are. That if they tell you it's green, it's green.
You have to.
Yeah, you just do it. So I remember, I flew in. I was exhausted, and it was the worst flight ever.
Which, by the way, we got into an argument. Yes, because I wanted to be there too for the 37-week scan.
Yeah.
A la semana 37 le hacen el scan a la surrogate.
The last scan.
Entonces, para mí, eso era algo importantísimo. And you got to be there. I didn't get to be there.
I didn't think it was a big deal.
Y yo le dije a Eric, si esa niña nace y yo no estoy ahí, yo nunca te voy a perdonar esto. Remember that.
And then I said, fine, then you can go. But I said, you know what? It's not a big deal. It was a scan. I'm sure we're going to have more scans after that. And we did. And you were part of them. But no, I remember flying in. And it was the worst flight because we had so many motetes with us. Like, I had the little crib and the coche. And I would never forget. It was like, the people were helping me trying to get to the gate. The next day was a scan. And it was a surreal feeling seeing and feeling the baby. But also, you're also trying to be respectful. Like, don't touch her.
Yeah.
I mean, she was very nice. She said, "Please touch it," but so you want to be respectful because it's a stranger that we've spoken to on the phone and we've via message, but we've never actually met. Yet you have this bond and this relationship which feels kind of like, in a way, like if you're together, like it's just like a throuple, right? Like at that time. But I remember seeing her for the first time. And she was so excited to see me. and that we were actually like there. Like, I'm sure it's an emotional process for women, and I know if you've been a surrogate before, I'm curious to know how you felt, with your intended parents. But it was very emotional. And I remember when I arrived there to Bogota, I walk in and I'm all, waltzing
suited up.
Suited up. And for some reason, no one ever thinks I can speak Spanish, I guess because I rarely speak it. So they're all talking about me in this waiting area. And they're like, hey, pero míralo a él, ese es el tuyo. I'm not saying that some of the intended parents don't look the best, but some of them don't look the best.
Porque hasta para eso hay una competencia, eh? Just so you know, how the process not only messes you up emotionally, pero hasta para eso hay una competencia.
Yeah, so I walk in and they're all talking about me, and then they're like, I wonder whose dad that is. And then the lady comes like, hi, and they're like, oh. And I started talking to her in Spanish, and they're all like, like con vergüenza. So, but it was nice. We sit there for the scan, and then it was a surreal experience to know that, when you hear that heartbeat in person.
I remember you actually FaceTimed.
Yeah, I FaceTimed. Yeah. I was trying to be all inclusive, although I really didn't want to FaceTime. I didn't want to FaceTime because it was just a lot of work. It kind of takes away from enjoying the process. But it's a unique thing where we have to kind of do this together. So we started from the beginning. But yeah, it was.
So that's week 37. Then the following week, I flew in with Ethan, ya para la semana 38. Ethan vio a la bebé, right?
Now that part was
cute.
That part of the process, that emotional component through surrogacy, that was probably one of the highlights. Seeing him touch the belly,
and then hearing the heartbeat. Mm-hmm. Porque when he heard the heartbeat, he was like, "Oh, it's Cataleya heart." I remember him saying that. Yeah. He just started like running around the room. He was so excited. So I think that was the best part to end there.
To end that journey, although like at that time, if he saw you gain an ounce of a belly, he'd be like, "Oh, do you have a baby in there?" Then he correlated the having a belly with just being like, pregnant.
And that was week 38. And then at that point, we're like, okay, Cataleya is coming at any time.
Well, she took a while. That part was, you're in another country. You're bored out of your mind because you're waiting. It's like, okay, everything is done. And then you're waiting for the baby to get here. And she was just not. She didn't want to come out.
She didn't want to come out. They were just waiting, and her surrogate was like, "Oh my God, I'm feeling some type of contractions." So here comes week 38. We're almost going into week 39, and the surrogate's like, "Well, how am I feeling? How is this normal now?" She's like, "She's gonna come out at any time." So we actually got her an apartment in the same building where we were staying.
Yeah.
Wilmer, dímelo.
Ya, es una pregunta que yo le iba a hacer a ustedes. O sea, ustedes están en el mismo país que ella.
Sí.
Y ahora, ¿cómo es la relación ahora que ustedes están en el mismo país? O sea, ustedes están viviendo con ella en la misma casa, la tienen muy cerca, están con ella en constante comunicación. Ya la bebé va a salir. O sea, ¿cómo ustedes trabajan? ¿Cómo ustedes manejan todo eso? Ya que están ahora más cerca, ya no es déjame escribirle cada 2 días.
Sí.
Ahora ya está, puedo caminar y a ver, o sea, ¿cómo ustedes manejaron eso?
So estamos en Bogotá, right? And ella estaba quedándose. Well, she lives about an hour and a half from where we were staying, right? So for the first 2 weeks that we were there, ella estaba en su casa. We will see her every other day because there were appointments. Every week there were appointments, or every 4 days she had to follow up. So ahí la veíamos. Y claro, comunicábamos diariamente por cualquier cosa, cómo te sientes, cualquier cosa te buscamos. There was a designated driver, ella tenía un chofer que la buscaba, la llevaba a las citas. Y ahí así era el proceso. Ya en la semana 38 para la 39, when we went to that last doctor's appointment, el doctor dijo, bueno, ya mañana se va a inducir el parto.
Pero, well, before we get to that part, la parte de la relación cambia, ¿verdad? Y una de las cosas que it's worth mentioning es que la relación no solo es con la gestante.
La gestante,
¿verdad?
exacto.
La relación es con la familia entera. Ella se apareció con su mamá y tenía un hijo.
Tiene un hijo.
Bueno, tiene un hijo. Tenía como 8, 9 años o 10 años.
No, he's 11. He's 11 going to 12.
Sí, ves que bien chiquito él. Bueno, ahora está más grande. Ahora está más grande, sí. Pero este proceso, hasta para ella, it involves la familia entera también. y la familia de nosotros. Así que cuando la conocimos la primera vez, conocimos también a la familia.
Sí, estaba su mamá.
Estaba su mamá y su hijo y la sobrina, que era bien...
A la sobrina también.
Sí, así que...
Y nos conocimos por primera vez enfrente de la clínica donde iba a dar a luz.
Con una torta, con una tortica.
Estaban comiendo torta colombiana.
Torta colombiana.
Arepa.
No, arepas colombianas. Así que es un proceso emocional, sí, pero la relación es como en familia. Porque nosotros estamos muy agradecidos también con la mamá de ella, porque ella la cuidó, le hacía remedios caseros, así cuando se sentía mal. Pero la diferencia fue que ya esa semana, 37 a la 40, ella ya estaba mucho más cansada. Estaba cansada, los pies hinchados, y era muy difícil para ella llegar de su casa a Bogotá, que sí era como una hora como una hora y media, y el camino no era un camino suave, right? Entonces nosotros decidimos en ese momento, hay muchos padres que se quedan juntos, pero nosotros, para privacidad y también para que ella también se sienta cómoda y queremos que ella también estuviera ahí con su mamá y con su hijo, le rentamos un apartamento.
Un apartamento en el mismo edificio donde nosotros nos estábamos quedando.
Sí. Entonces ahí nos quedamos todos, cenamos como 2 o 3 días juntos, nos conocimos mejor.
But you know what's really funny? Es como bien irónico, porque es como que el principio del final del proceso.
Sí.
El principio, porque vamos a darle la bienvenida, en este caso fue a Cataleya, pero ya era como culminando el proceso que veníamos teniendo con nuestras gestantes, because just like Eric mentioned, it is like having a relationship.
Yeah.
We were like in a relationship, not only with her, but with her family as well.
Yeah.
So
and for them too. It was a very... You know, it's funny. We talk about us, but I remember talking to the chat. We were chatting with the surrogate, and she was very emotional, and so was her mom. Yeah. La despedida de ella a la panza, a la pancita, y el proceso para ellos también para despedirse de la pancita. Ellos comenzaron porque the psychiatrists, remember, they give them a process of saying goodbye to the belly.
Sí, right? Porque ellos tienen evaluación psicológica, las gestantes, y siempre hay una persona acompañándolas. Y ahí estaba el psicólogo diciéndole, tienes que comenzar ya a despedirte de la pancita. You have to start saying goodbye to the belly.
Y muchas veces...
Not only her, sorry to interrupt you.
El hijo y la mamá.
También, y la mamá, toda la familia.
Toda la familia para despedirse, porque esta criatura ha sido parte de su vida. They've uprooted their whole life for it. Pero también que en ese punto del principio del final, ellos también se sentían así como que...
What's going to happen next?
Usted estamos tristes porque pensamos que no vamos a seguir la relación, no nos van a llamar, hemos oído muchas historias, and stuff like that. And I remember we would always tell them, esa relación es para siempre. Ustedes lo que han hecho con nosotros fue algo que no tenemos nadie lo máximo dinero ni nada para apreciarlo tanto que han hecho. This is forever.
This is for life.
Yeah, and for us, it was also very important too to keep that relationship for Cataleya in the future. And I can tell you, one of the most heartfelt moments was after, which is like 2-3 weeks ago, that she sent us a video. Ella se mandó un video con lo que es su vida hoy, después del proceso. And that was seeing this all 360, que en ese proceso son tantas vidas que están tocadas, cambiadas, alteradas, and it's a beautiful thing.
And that's one of the questions I got on social media. Do we keep in touch with our surrogate? And are we going to keep in touch with our surrogate? And the answer is yes. We told her from the beginning, this is something that we want for the rest of our existence, right? Siempre vamos a estar en contacto con ella, con su familia, y siempre vamos a tener esa comunicación. Obviamente ya la comunicación ha mermado, is not the same to the same level, porque ya no tenemos que hablar cada otro día, cada semana, cada 2 semanas, o para cuando Cataleya reaches the milestone, si sonríe, le enviamos una foto. So está ese nivel de comunicación aún existente.
Ella, muchas personas piensan que el surrogacy process es un abuso a la mujer, y que para algunas es algo así como que we're taking advantage of them. Y no digo que eso no pase, estoy seguro que eso pasa en algunas situaciones. Pero hay muchas situaciones como nosotros que es a very good experience, a beautiful experience, que ella lo estaba haciendo para su familia, para su hijo.
Para su bienestar.
Y para su bienestar. Y ella tenía una meta, for confidentiality, no vamos a decir cuál era su meta, pero ella tenía una meta, lo que ella quería hacer con su familia. Y se le hizo muy difícil por las circunstancias y financial reasons, como está en la situación en Colombia. Así que el sueño de ella era hacer tal y tal cosa. Y después que todo terminó, ella pudo cumplir esa meta. Y también asegurar
que aún
el
pueda
futuro de su hijo y de su mami y de su papi.
Exacto.
Y ella pasó un par de cosas antes, pero ahora podemos reportar que ella está en a very, very good place. Su familia está en un muy bonito lugar y ella pudo cumplir parte de su meta, que era su sueño que ella tenía en mente.
Eso no solamente es el sueño de nosotros, pero a la misma vez es el sueño de las gestantes. Muchas gestantes lo hacen porque, claro, quieren ayudar, todas quieren ayudar a una familia, a que la familia sea grande, pero también ellas tienen metas personales que quieren lograr, como en el caso de las gestantes.
Sí te puedo contar que nosotros, mientras estábamos allá, entrevistamos a algunas surrogates, ¿verdad?
Gestantes.
Y las gestantes y sus historias todas
son diferentes.
Todas eran bellas. Y fue bien chistoso porque muchas que conocimos eran o abogadas o se convirtieron en enfermeras o comenzaron sus negocios. Y fue por el
proceso.
Por el proceso.
El proceso les cambia la vida.
Les cambia la vida. Y también que hay organizaciones que también ayudan a sacarlas adelante. And now they can do very good.
Entonces, como estaban hablando, es el principio del final. El principio del final, obviamente, llega el momento más esperado, que es cuando nace Cataleya. Recibimos a Cataleya. I remember, solamente una persona podía entrar porque Cataleya nació C-section, aunque era natural birth, pero por complicaciones se tuvo que hacer C-section. So, íbamos los dos, pero ahí nos pararon, solamente una persona puede entrar.
But that was a big decision to make.
Nos dicen que una persona, ¿quién es la persona que va a entrar? Entró Eric porque él decía que yo me iba a desmayar estando ahí because it was going to be a big, a lot of blood, a lot of cuts, and that I wasn't going to be able to handle it. However, I was outside y yo escuché cuando
Well, let's go back to that process too, because I'm sure this is a question for many parents.
Who gets to be in the room?
This was part of the emotional battle that we face.
From the beginning.
Who
gets to be in the room?
Who should be in the delivery room, and how do you make that decision? Because it's not like the U.S. where you can both be there. How do you make that decision? And we were faced with that decision
from the beginning. I told him from the beginning, I'm the one that's going to be in the delivery room.
Yo dije lo siguiente: si él, Eli, él se desmaya de cualquier cosa, ¿verdad? Él no puede ver sangre, no puede ver así, es bien sensible. Y si es un parto de C-section y él se desmaya, then we both missed it. We both missed it. So, let's do the right thing from the beginning. So, that's how we ended up there. But go ahead.
So, he goes into the delivery room. I'm outside waiting. Cuando nace Cataleya, me dice una de las enfermeras que está, no, aquí no se va a escuchar nada. Cuando esa niña nace, eso es un grito que retumba todo el primer piso del hospital escuchó a Cataleya, and I am not kidding. Cuando ella nació, yo le dije a la enfermera, esa es la hija mía que acaba de nacer, vaya a chequear. Y ella dice, sí, esa misma fue. Fue tan grande ese grito.
El impacto, sí.
Y ahí mismo se la dan a Eric, luego de que le hacen la limpieza, todo. Entonces Eric me la trae. Y Dios mío, eso cambió instantáneamente la vida de nosotros. Ya segundos antes había cambiado su vida, pero desde que yo la vi, eso fue. Magdalena me quedó. María Magdalena fue una chambra.
But it was funny because I mean, just some key things about delivery. Wait, this is my center one here, right? I never knew that umbilical cord, it looks like an alien. I just have to say that umbilical cord, it looks like an alien. And, it sucks. And I have to give it to all the women out there. The C-section, I've never seen a C-section before. That was my first time. And wow, it was, I was terrified for the surrogate. And it was important for me too, and for us later, to be there for her too. So this is going back to the emotional, the relationship, the connection. We held hands the whole time, and she couldn't see. She had a blanket. She was like, "¿Qué lo que está?" And she was terrified. I remember she was terrified. And I was like, no, you're doing great. Yo me quería desmayar en ese punto porque there was this one blood thing next to me, and I was like, oh, okay. But then this capsule comes out, and then you're right. When they opened it up, esa niña soltó un grito. Okay, even the OR said, "Whoa, wow, qué pulmones tiene esa."
Y ahí llegó el momento de, claro, subirnos a la habitación. Cataleya is finally here. Está en nuestros brazos. Para finalizar, vamos a culminar con esta parte. ¿Cambia de la manera que se veían las cosas inmediatamente? Llega Cataleya a nuestras vidas. Do we see our surrogate different? ¿Se cumplió el propósito? ¿Ya las cosas llegaron a su final?
Yes, it does. Things do change. I can tell you, cambia sí, porque desde que tú te conviertes en un padre, te conviertes en un animal también así. It's not about you, it's about this baby. Period. You know, it's like your whole perspective just changes that this is the reason why you're here. This is what you're living for going forward. Does the relationship with the surrogate change? Yes, because thank you so much. You've given me the ultimate gift. What you've done for me, I can never repay you. And and how will it be going forward and so on? You know what? We are friends for life. We're tied by this event, this incident. You know, they say that there are things in life that bring you close, separate you. This is one of those things that brought us close, but we gained a few members to our family. And also, this is Cataleya's story.
Yeah, it is.
And for that reason alone, yes, things are preserved.
I'm sure people want to know, did we let the surrogate carry the baby?
Yeah.
Like, actually, agarrarla en sus brazos. Did we allow her to do so?
So, no, okay, do we have enough time to go over that whole thing?
No, I'm just sure la gente se va a quedar con la pregunta. Sí, por ejemplo, cuando el skin to skin, ¿quién lo hizo? ¿Cómo fue? Pero al finalizar, ¿quién?
No, I'll be very short and brief. The short answer is we did not. Okay. It wasn't because we didn't want to. It was for two reasons. She had a C-section. And it was not a good C-section. Meaning that it was very, very tough on her body. So we spent the 2 days taking care of her more than we did the baby. And then number two, I think that she was so respectful that, you know, we were respecting her as well. I think she was a bit reserved. Ella era muy consciente y muy protegida con sus sentimientos. And we think that, you know, we followed her lead.
Yeah.
We were okay with her carrying her? Absolutely.
Didn't she carry her towards like 2 weeks, 3 weeks later?
Yeah, no, she carried her. Yeah, she carried her.
I don't remember. I think before we left Bogota, she carried her.
Well, right? she came in with the baby. Ella vino con la bebé en la cama y cuando entra a la habitación dice, ay, yo ni sabía que estaba ahí.
Sí, ella se dio cuenta. Ella estaba tan drogada, ¿no? Por los medicamentos. Pero antes de irnos de Bogotá, she did carry the baby because we saw her para despedirnos de ella y de su familia.
Después sí, pero we had no promise. And if anything, she's been there. This is all part of the, this is all part of the process.
I think this has been a great conversation, just reminiscing everything y también hablando de esos componentes emocionales en esta journey, ¿no? Para finalizar y para resumir, what would be the one thing for sure that would forever stay as part of the emotional aspect of this?
The one part was that stood with me. Was the birthing period, like the whole birth.
Yeah.
You know, that emotional whirlwind of how your life can go from A to B within seconds. To me, is still unfathomable that your life can be altered so drastically within a matter of seconds. So for me, I would say the birth as part of the emotional, because it also culminates and ties into the relationship with the surrogate, the beginning, the end. The whole process is all these emotions are all in a whirlwind in place, and everything from the journey beginning to end, you see it, you live it all within that one moment.
I think I'm going to say for me was the cry. For me, definitely the cry. Cuando Cataleya gritó, yo dije, ya está aquí, and this is what we came here for, this is what we achieved. Y ya tenemos a la niña. with that, thank you for listening, for watching. Make sure you do subscribe to our channel, right? Que decirle a la gente que se suscriba. Si usted no tiene un podcast, si usted tiene un podcast y no dice suscríbete, usted no tiene nada. Así que make sure you subscribe, make sure you listen, follow us on our social media.
Subscribe.
Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.